the famous indicator Ichimoku Kinko Hyo. Ichimoku Kinko Hyo, or simply Ichimoku, is one of the most complete indicators available. Although it was developed in 1930 by a Japanese journalist named Goyoshi Ozoda, this indicator makes it possible to detect the momentum of a chair, its trend, as well as its strength through different time variables. Beyond the three temporal variables used, Ichimoku is composed by 5 curves, allowing each of them to understand at a glance the history of a chair behavior, its future movement, the support and resistance, as well as the strength of the generated signals. Ichimoku Kinko Hyo is composed by the Chinko span, the Kinjun sen, the Teikan sen, the Senko span A, and Senko span B. Its use is as efficient for swing trading as it is for scalping. In case of scalping, you will use this analysis in several periods in a short time variable. 30 minutes to obtain a long-term underlying trend, 5 minutes for the short term, which will be useful to confirm the 30-minute trend, then 1 minute to establish your position. Here is the graphical representation of the Ichimoku Kinko Hyo indicator. At first glance, this indicator is much more significant with the presence of multiple curves. Thus, a lot of information that will generate a large number of signals. However, the principle of the Ichimoku Kinko Hyo indicator is to understand at a glance the probable future movement, as well as the strength of the signals that are generated. It's a complete indicator that is very simple to analyze. In order to better understand the importance of each curve, we will look at each component one by one. The component of Ichimoku Kinko Hyo. First of all, the Chinko span. These curves correspond to the closing value of a chair, shift 26 periods backwards. It is also known as the lagging span. This curve is mainly used as a filter in order to confirm signals obtained by other lines. The Kinjun sen. This curve is the result of the average level of value over a medium-term time interval, thus 26 sessions. It is used to evaluate the strength of a medium-term trend. This is therefore known as baseline. Its formula is clearly simple. Highest value in a period plus lowest value in a period divided by 2. Then the Tenkan sen. These curves show the average level of value over the short-term time interval of 9 sessions. The Tenkan sen is used to measure the strength of a short-term trend. This is therefore called the conversion line. About its formula, that is the same than the Kinjun sen. This is only the period that will differ. So 26 sessions for the Kinjun sen and 9 sessions for the Tenkan sen. Now, let's talk about the Senko span. So, there is Senko span A and Senko span B. About Senko span A, this curve is the first boundary of the Kumo cloud. It corresponds to the average distance between the Tenkan sen line and the Kinjun sen, represented over the medium term. About the Senko span B, this curve is the second boundary at which the Kumo cloud takes shapes. It corresponds to the average distance between the Tenkan sen and the Kinjun sen, represented over a long-term period, 52 sessions. Its long-term aspect makes this curve a support or a resistance line depending on its position. To conclude, let's talk about the Kumo cloud. The Kumo, known as the cloud due to its shape, is the area between the circumspan A and the circumspan B. This Schrödinger's cloud graphically represents the divergence in price evolution. Let's start with the Chikou span component. As seen previously, Chikou span is a curve corresponding to the closing value of a stock, shift 26 period backwards. This curve is mainly used as a filter in order to validate the signals obtained by the other lines. But when are the signals generated? The analysis of these curves takes place when the value line crosses the Chikou span curve. When the Chikou span crosses the price upward, this represents a buy signal. On the contrary, when the Chikou span crosses the price downward, this represents a selling signal. Also, the position of this component is important. If the Chikou span is above the price, it means that the trend is bullish. Conversely, when the Chikou span is below the price, the trend is bearish. At the first signal, we clearly see that the Chikou span crosses Google price upward, suggesting a future bullish trend and therefore a positive signal. This indicator is reflected on the price 26 period later. We found on April 6 the period when the indicator crossed the price, and finally we see that the signals get right with the continuation of the rebound. This upward trend then continued for about 10 sessions. We have the opposite case during the second signal. The Chikou span crossed Google price downwards, which shows the end of a bullish period and a potential trend reversal. Concerning the third signal, despite a period where the price evolution is undecided, the Chikou span crossed very strongly the Google price upward, which announced a probable resumption of the upward trend. Similarly, on the other signal, where the Chikou span crossed Google price upward. Similarly, for the fourth signal, when the Chikou span crossed Google price upward. Finally, the fifth signal is generated when the Chikou span crosses Google price downward despite an upward trend that will be sustained for a few more sessions. Let's summarize. Here is the way to identify the signals of the Chikou span component as well as their interpretation. The analysis of these curves takes place when the price line crosses the Chikou span curve. When the Chikou span crosses upward, this represents a buy signal. Conversely, when the Chikou span crosses downward, it represents a sell signal. Also, if the Chikou span is above the price, it means that the trend is bullish. Conversely, when the Chikou span is below the price, the trend is bearish. You have to know that the Chikou span can be used in combination with the Bollinger Band. The crossing of the Chikou span with the Bollinger Bands upward represents a bullish signal. Conversely, when the Chikou span crosses the Bollinger Band downward, this is a bearish signal. The Kijun-sen curve is the result of the average level of value over the medium-term time interval, thus 26 sessions. It is used to evaluate the strength of a medium-term trend. Known as a baseline due to its method of calculation over 26 period, it takes a certain amount of time to react to the market fluctuation. The analysis of these curves depends on its position in relation to the price, as well as its inclination. Regarding Kijun-sen position, when the Kijun-sen curve is below the price, we are usually in an uptrend, and it can be considered as support. Conversely, the Kijun-sen can be used as a resistance when we are in a downtrend situation, thus when the Kijun-sen curve is above the price. The inclination of the Kijun-sen curve is also relevant. We are in a bullish trend situation when the curve is inversely inclined. Conversely, we are in a bearish trend when the inclination of the curve decreases. It should be noted that the sharper the inclination of the curve, the more the medium-term trend is confirmed. First, we observe that the Google price crossed the Kijun-sen several times. The position of the latter is therefore not really defined, either below or above the price. Moreover, it is relatively flat, which allows us to affirm that we do not have a clear trend in Google price, so we are within a range zone. Thereafter, the Kijun-sen takes on a supporting wall being below the price. We can also observe that the trend is consolidating thanks to an increasing inclination of the Kijun-sen curve. The same principle applies to the other two periods highlighted, so you can easily understand the signification of the Kijun-sen component. Signal interpretation and identification of the Kijun-sen component. The Kijun-sen curve is known as baseline due to its calculation method over 26 periods. It takes a certain lapse of time to react to market fluctuation. The analysis of this curve depends on its position in relation to the price, as well as its inclination. Let's talk about the position of Kijun-sen. When the Kijun-sen curve is below the price, we are usually in an upward trend, and this can be considered as a support. Conversely, the Kijun-sen can be used as a resistance when we are in downward trend, thus when the Kijun-sen is above the price. The inclination of the Kijun-sen curve is important. We are in an uptrend situation with an increasing slope of the curve. Conversely, we are in a bearish trend when the slope of the curve decreases. It should be noted that the steeper the inclination of the curve, the more the medium-term trend is confirmed. This is the component Tenkan-sen. Due to its calculation method, containing 9 periods, this is highly reactive to exchange rate fluctuation. So it is also called a translation line. The analysis of this curve is based on its position regarding to the Kijun-sen curve. The combination of these two curves gives us an overview of the future dynamics. When the Tenkan-sen crosses the Kijun-sen upwards, we are in a situation of a short-term rebound or a bullish trend change. On the contrary, when the Tenkan-sen crosses the Kijun-sen downwards, a correction or trend reversal is taking place. Also, the signal generated will be considered strong when the crossing is above Kumo cloud, and weak when the crossing is below the Kumo cloud. Regarding the first signal, two elements highlight a strong signal with a bearish dynamic. First, the Tenkan-sen curve suddenly crosses the Kijun-sen curve. By suddenly, I mean the crossing angle, which turns out to be relatively large. Moreover, this signal took place above the Kumo cloud, which confirmed this signal. Inversely, from April 8th, the two curves tend to merge to result in the exit of the Kumo cloud at a strong crossing. The Tenkan-sen returned above the Kijun-sen at a relatively significant angle to confirm this rebound. The crossing was the signal of a bullish momentum that lasted more than 1 month. Concerning the third signal, the Tenkan-sen curves cross the Kijun-sen curves downward. The Kijun-sen curves also has a downward inclination. These elements suggest a possible trade reversal, but at least indicate a market correction. Finally, we then have a signal of recovering with the upward crossing of the two components, the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. However, as this signal is generated within the Kumo cloud, it does not allow us to obtain a clear trend in Google price. Signal interpretation and identification. Thus, as we understood from the previous graph, the Tenkan-sen curve is known as the translation line or conversion line due to its calculation method containing 9 periods. So the Tenkan-sen is very reactive to the exchange rate fluctuation. The analysis of this curve is based on its position regarding the Kijun-sen curve. The combination of these two curves gives us an insight into the probability of future dynamic. As mentioned before, the signal will be generated when the two curves intersect. When the Tenkan-sen crosses the Kijun-sen upward, we are in a situation of short-term rebound or upward trend. Conversely, when the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen cross in a downward direction, a correction or trend reversal is taking place. Also, the signal generated will be considered strong when the crossing is above the Kumo cloud and weak when the crossing is below the Kumo cloud. The Kumo cloud is the original component that brings charisma to the Ichimoku indicator. The Kumo cloud graphically represents the divergence in the evolution of the value located between the Senkou span A and the Senkou span B. This indicator is used in order to detect a trend, measure its strength, and understand the support as well as the resistance of the value. The particularity and advantage of the Kumo cloud is that it also makes a future projection of the price trend. So two elements will allow us to analyze this component: its position and its thickness. Generally, when the value curve is above the Kumo cloud, we are in an uptrend and the Kumo cloud will act as a support. Conversely, the Kumo cloud could place the wall of resistance when we are in a downward trend. So when the value curve is below the cloud. In addition, the strength of the trend is measurable through the thickness of the cloud. Basically, the larger the surface angle and therefore the thicker the cloud, the stronger the trend is perceived to be. In the crossover situation between the Senkou span A and the Senkou span B, we see a reversal of trend. However, when the Kumo cloud evolves into a twist, thus the two curves cross each other successively, we are moving into a range period. During the first period, from April 6 to April 9, Google price moves above the Kumo cloud, indicating that we are in an uptrend. However, we observe a decrease in the thickness of the cloud Kumo. This strong upward trend will slow down as well as between the first period and the second one. We also note that the Senku A crossed the Senku B at the bottom. This is why the cloud changed colors. It tries to warn us of a slowing trend or even a possible reversal of trend. Google price being well above the cloud, we will consider more the hypothesis of a simple trend slowdown or a correction. At the beginning of the second period, everything starts to rise again with a relatively large crossing angle between Senku span A and Senku span B, which means that the thickness of the Kumo cloud is constantly increasing. We are therefore at the heart of a strong bullish trend. Later on, we observe that Google price suddenly penetrates the Kumo cloud, which ends to the strong uptrend. The cloud will therefore shrink and give way to a period of uncertainty as to the evolution of the price. In addition, Google share price will several times come out and then penetrate the cloud again. Zone 3 represents an upward trend thanks primarily to the evolution of the Senku span B. This curve, which due to its long-term aspect represents a line of support or resistance depending on its position. So here we observe a line of support that increases over the section. Also, compared to that we have experienced in previous session, the Kumo cloud takes back its color through its extension. We are therefore well within a bullish trend until the. Also, compared to what we have experienced in previous session, the Kumo clouds take back its color through Also, compared to what we have experienced in previous session, the Kumo cloud takes back its color through its extension. We are therefore well within a bullish trend until the Google price tends to get dangerously close to the Kumo cloud. Finally, here is the specificity of the Kumo cloud. We observe a projection of the future trend of the price. As you may have guessed, also, compared to what we have experienced in previous session, the Kumo cloud takes back its color through its extension. We are therefore well within a bullish trend until the Google price tends to get dangerously close to the Kumo cloud. Finally, here is the specificity of the Kumo cloud. We observe a projection of the future trend of the price. As you may have guessed, with the projection of a downward cross between Senku span A and Senku span B, this leaves us doubtful regarding the upward trend of Google price. Signal interpretation and identification. So, as we understood from the previous graph, the Kumo cloud graphically represents the divergence in the evolution of the value between Senku span A and Senku span B. This indicator will help us to detect a trend, measure its strength, and understand the support as well as the resistance of the value. The special characteristic and advantage of the Kumo cloud is that it also makes a future projection of the price trend. Let's talk about the position of the Kumo cloud. Generally, when the value curve is above the Kumo cloud, we are in an upward trend, and the Kumo cloud will act as a support. Conversely, the Kumo cloud acts as a resistance when we are in a downward trend. so when the value curve is below the cloud. About the thickness of the Kumo cloud, the strength of the trend is measurable through the thickness of the cloud. Generally speaking, the larger the surface angle, so the thicker the cloud, the stronger the trend is considered to be. In the crossover situation between Senkou span A and Senkou span B, we observe a trend reversal. However, when the Kumo cloud evolves into a twist, so the two curves cross each other successively, we are operating in a range period. So, now that you have the resources to analyze the Ichimoku Kinko Hyo indicator in its integrality, let's try to associate the different signals generated in order to identify the opportune moment to take position. You will find through the numbers the different signals that will help us to make a decision. The signals including the number 1 being used to take the first position, and so on. The crosses on Google value curves represent the moment that I actually took position, buy or sell, according to a risk rate that I set. For this first position, I prefer to wait for a significant number of signals to confirm an entry into the market. On April 7, I was able to take a buy position thanks to 3 positive signals. The first one, the cross between the Kinko span with the Google price was clearly defined upward movement. Then, concerning the Kumo cloud, the curves came out with the cloud to trace a sharp uptrend, especially since the thickness of the cloud was relatively large. Finally, we observed that the Tenkan-sen joined the Kijun-sen for an upward trend that resulted from overtaking the Tenkan-sen with a very open crossing angle. For this buy position, I did not benefit from the best entry momentum, but the volatility being important this last session, I prefer to secure this investment with a minimum risk. Then, I decided to take a buy position on April 15 using only the Kumo cloud, so the Kumo behavior and the evolution of the Tenkan-sen as well as the Kijun-sen. Indeed, after a slowdown in the uptrend, the bullish trend starts again with a positive widening of the Kumo cloud as well as the increasing inclination of the Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen. However, I quickly noticed a first warning signal on the April 20, with the junction of the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. This means that the short-term dynamism was less stable than the background trend. In addition, we also observed that the Kinko span had just crossed the Google value curves downward. Remember, the Kinko span is projecting backward, so we didn't have this signal before this date. Being in a zone of uncertainty, I prefer to cut my too boring position. So, as a result, for the first position, we made a profit of plus 8.05% and 3.20% for the second one, while having trade in a safe way, so with a measured risk. Finally, up to the position number 4, in the same mindset as my previous decision, I was not satisfied with the signal generated. Here, we had 3 positive signals, the same as the first operation, so I'll let you analyze them. Thus, we took a buying position. To close this position, we cut this position when the Google price strongly crossed the Tenkan-sen and Kijun-sen downward. Here, we made a small profit of plus 2.52%. Our objective was not to maximize returns, which is possible to achieve through trading algorithms and the application of other indicators. The objective was to show you how to optimally use Ichimoku Kinko Hyo and to provide you an example with the raw result as error.